Japan was unbeatable on the economic front, unstoppable, and everything was going well, until suddenly, it wasn't anymore. In 1991, after 3 decades of rapid growth, Japan became the world's second largest economy, trailing only the United States. As the economy thrived, the values of real estate and stocks also soared. However, in the late 1980s, this growth turned into a frenzy of speculation. Virtually everyone was convinced that the economic boom and asset increase would never end, and the more you invested, the more money you would accumulate, creating expectations of a peaceful retirement and financial independence. Meanwhile, the Bank of Japan continued to print money and lend it to virtually anyone who asked, regardless of the purpose of the loan or the credibility of the borrowers. It was as if an inexhaustible money-making machine was operating. And then suddenly, the bubble burst. Throughout 1990, the stock market plummeted by 43%, and real estate prices followed the same path. The bursting of the bubble deeply affected the economy, leaving people with little money to spend. And of course, no one was willing to invest in Japanese companies, leading to the end of the economic boom. Additionally, in the years following the burst of the bubble, serious problems began to emerge in the Japanese financial system. It became clear that corruption was widespread both in business and in the Japanese government, ranging from insider trading to stock manipulation, fraud, and bribery. Furthermore, the excessive lending without limits created a large number of zombie companies, meaning companies that would have gone bankrupt long ago but continued to survive on state loan money. In just a decade, Japan went from being praised as the economic tiger and the Japanese miracle to being called the sick man of Asia. A radical change in its financial and economic reputation. While a dramatic fall is not uncommon, the situation in Japan was completely different. Japan's economic recession had a profound impact on an entire generation, with serious consequences for society and the country's future. There is a generation of people between the ages of 30 and 40 who are out of the labor market, living with their parents, and often financially dependent on them. These young adults never had the financial stability to start their own families or build solid careers, and many of them never even had any jobs. Around 15% of the Japanese population, which equates to almost 17 million people, belongs to this lost generation. They form a crucial demographic group for any country's economy. People in this age group usually spend a lot of money on their families, homes, and cars, responsible for a significant portion of consumption that keeps the economy going. However, the lack of contribution from the lost generation is one of the main challenges faced by Japan today. In addition to economic problems, this situation is also leading to a host of other social issues, such as isolation and profound sadness. Currently, the country faces a challenge called superaging. With nearly 30% of the population over the age of 65, Japan is aging faster than anywhere else in the world. One of the reasons for this is the low birth rate, which is a consequence of the lost generation that never had children. By 2050, there will be nearly the same number of elderly as working-age people. This is a big problem because the elderly depend on taxes paid by working-age individuals to support themselves. If the population continues to age, Japan will struggle to fund benefits for the elderly. The lost generation has created a social problem that is becoming increasingly severe for the country's survival. The phenomenon of Hikikomori. Hikikomori are Japanese men who completely isolate themselves from society, spending their entire lives in seclusion. They never leave their homes and have no social contact, often financially depending on their parents. The first Hikikomori were men from the original lost generation, men in their 30s and 40s who failed to succeed in the job market. They felt pressured to meet Japanese society's expectations, such as getting a job, advancing in their careers, starting a family, having children, and supporting them. They felt incapable of achieving these goals and, as a result, decided to give up entirely. The phenomenon soon spread to younger generations, even though they had the opportunity to enter the job market. They also felt pressured to succeed in the market at any cost. Today, there are nearly 1 million Hikikomori in Japan, and this number is only expected to rise. The Japanese government acknowledges the problem but has not yet found a solution. The main reason is that the country's economy is still not in good shape, and the work culture is extremely rigid. The government announced a plan to help the lost generation get back on their feet and reintegrate those who have isolated themselves from society. But so far, the results have been disappointing. The problem is that the Japanese economy is still recovering, and the country's work culture is extremely rigid. Not only are people expected to work long hours and adhere to a strict hierarchy, but many Japanese companies still follow the traditional system of lifetime employment, hiring only once a year and promoting only from within the company. This makes it impossible for employees to take time off or even have a second chance if they don't get a job in the right company. As a result, millions of people are trapped in a system that is difficult to enter and impossible to exit. As more young people fail to succeed in this relentless system,